Hello and welcome to the Wealth Doc Podcast with your host, Dr. Mike Heckman. I'm your producer, Wendy McConnell. Well, hello, Dr. Mike. How are you?
Excellent, Wendy. Good to see you. How have you been?
Oh, I've been good. We just saw each other, and hopefully this will be a regular thing, Mike.
Right on. We're in Michigan still, and the weather is not as hot as the coffee yet, so we're still waiting.
Oh, yes. Well, today's the first day of spring that we're recording this.
Excellent.
I know. Well, it takes a little longer to actually get here than it does on the calendar. But we do have a guest today, so would you like to introduce him, Mike?
Yeah, absolutely. I've got Master Eric Ford on the call, and so thankful to have him here. Eric is someone that I met at some training that personally helped me out a lot, technique wise and emotionally to get through some of the pressures. And he's here because he's a phenomenal martial artist, and he has rebranded and owns a successful martial arts school in Chicagoland area, the TVMA Academy. So thanks so much for showing up, Eric.
Oh, thank you so much for having me and very gracious words that you said. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Oh, my pleasure. So yeah, so the podcast, most of our audience is business owners, and then my favoriteest passion is martial arts, and you've got that the three hats of being a practitioner, a teacher, and a business owner, and so wanted to kind of tell your story like you've told me to the audience here, and so if you don't mind, just starting off like how you got into martial arts.
Yeah, so actually, I've been practicing martial arts for a little over 20 years. And Mike and I actually met at what was called a Kukiwan certification for international masters. And to me, that was really a huge turning point within my martial arts career. And what a lot of people may not know is Kukiwan is located in South Korea. It's essentially the highest level of certification that you can get. And to become an international master, it's a pretty long series of testing and, both physical as well as philosophical. You obtain a title that's called Sabanim. And what Sabanim is, it kind of translates to a guiding light. So a lot of people think, oh, okay, Eric, you run a martial arts school. But what I really try to do is just guide people through growth. And whether it's working with young children, building confidence, teens finding direction, or adults kind of rediscovering discipline or learning a new skill set. And over time, something that I've sort of realized is that all of these things apply far beyond the martial arts. So if you're focused on running a business, you might survive. But if you build a community that people feel connected to, that's where the real lasting impressions really happen. So that's where I kind of see myself with my school.
Yeah, so I guess that was my next question. Like what is a big differentiator you think, between like a Taekwondo school that is struggling versus a successful one, and what I just heard there is a lot of culture and community building.
For sure. Yeah. A business, and again, business is really kind of, you could probably forget something in 20 minutes that would take me a lifetime to learn about business. But for me, business that provides a service, but it's a community that is going to create belonging. You know, People don't just come to learn Taekwondo or a martial art. They're there to feel seen, to feel supported and challenged. And a lot of times, I think with martial arts schools, you'll hear, it's all about price or it's about location. But in my honest opinion, uh, you you have to kind of build a strong business that is based on community. So, like a business, you can be competitive as a business, but a strong community is something that just cannot be replaced.
Yeah, and I think that's so huge. Is that if you go to 15 schools and you just go to the one that's got the cheapest monthly rate, you're probably not going to have a good outcome.
Exactly. Yeah. It's when I hear of like other schools and everything, they'll talk about, oh, I got X amount of new contracts, and they call their students contracts. That's something that actually it's a little disheartening for me. When a new student comes in, I think it does a couple different things. The first is, okay, you have this brand new student, they get their white belt, and they're very eager and ready to learn. And what it does for me, and even though I've been doing this for over 20 years, I take a look at that and it gives me those beginner's eyes once again. I know you probably sometimes feel it too. You have a new student and they come in and everything matters. The way that they bow, it has a meaning behind it, as opposed to just kind of doing things through repetition, because that's what we always do. And having those beginner's eyes, I remember when I first started Taekwondo, I walked in and I felt like I was wearing pajamas. My uniform was a little too big and everybody is yelling. And I'm like, what kind of environment am I in? This is
How
really
did I get
chaotic.
here?
Yeah, exactly. And as time kind of goes on, all of those things, all the yelling, the key ops, all of that begins to have meaning. And having newer students come in, I think that really kind of gives you those beginner eyes and it ignites that excitement that we all once had when we first started. So instead of like taking a look at a new student as like, oh, I have a new contract that came in, the way I like to view it is a new story is being created, and that student is the main character within that story. And throughout all of their chapters or different belt progressions and assessments that they have to go through, we continuously write new stories for them. And they're the main character. They're the ones that have to go through all the work. We just sort of guide them.
Yeah, they're Luke Skywalker and you're Yoda.
Yeah, right. It's a really beautiful process. And you just don't realize how much of yourself goes into every single student and the things that they remember and the way that they feel within your school.
That's awesome. So you get you sounds like you get a lot of your energy or the refreshing, as you get the new guys in the out the door and getting them started out right.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. In my world, a white belt's not just beginning, it's the start of their story.
So you've got more than one location, don't you?
Actually, no, I just have one location,
Okay, right on.
which is absolutely amazing.
So I've seen like just I've haven't had the joy of going to your school yet, but I've seen like just your social media posts and you do a really good job on that. And I think I've seen like different pictures that look so different that I assumed it was different locations.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, my previous background, I was a graphic designer, worked with many different companies, everything from doing ads for like Target, Bass Pro Shops, Walgreens. So I did a lot of graphic design for a lot of different companies. And then later on, I had worked for Apple and worked for Apple for about 10 years. One of the positions that I had with Apple was a producer for Apple News.
Hmm.
And, having a martial arts school has allowed me to kind of take a lot of my different abilities and things that I'm passionate about and mold it into kind of one concrete thing. So even though it's still technically work, I still enjoy making all the different video edits as well as the different artwork and photos and everything that I post on our social media. So thank you. That's kind of a compliment that you gave me. Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's huge. Like when I come visit you here in the middle of next month, I was gonna ask like who you hired out to do that, and so finding out that you did it, that's like double impressive.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. And I think that's also, I know a lot of your listeners are very intrigued on the business side of everything.
Hmm.
Um, One of the things that I would highly recommend to anybody who's an entrepreneur or going into their own business, I know little things that can make a big difference that you're passionate about. So for me, graphic design is something that I truly enjoy, both as a hobby as well as on a professional level, and incorporate that into your business. This way, it's not just oh, I'm looking at the bottom line and what my profit and loss is and all the numbers. You can kind of get lost in that.
Hmm.
Find the art of the business. I think that's probably an extremely valuable lesson, to find those little things that you gravitate towards in order to kind of push yourself forward at the end of the day.
And that's probably why you get to keep the energy that you do is like you love being on the mat and you love that part of the back office, and then you can just delegate the rest.
Yeah, exactly. um, yeah, and the other aspect is I don't have you ever heard of sort of Ryan Reynolds' viewpoint on business? Are you familiar with that at all?
I know Ryan Reynolds from his work, especially like the worst of the Blade movies and some of his other stuff. But as far as like business, I know that he got involved with some cell phone. But no, I'm all ears.
Yeah, so he actually has been involved with, I believe it's a production agency, an advertising agency. And one of the things that I heard him talk about that I really connected with was the idea of emotional investment
Mm,
matters more than financial investment. And that's something that I try to bring into my school. So my school is actually fairly newer in a sense. I actually purchased a school from my former master.
yeah.
So I've been in the same school for quite some time. And as he retired,
Was this the only school that I don't mean to talk over you, but was this the school that you started off like strapping on the white belt or the whole?
yes,
Okay, very cool.
yes, it is. Yeah. So I was able to take over the school that I first attended when I felt like I was wearing pajamas and yelling and everything. So now I'm in charge of this school. And when I purchased the school, it was a leap of faith, to be completely and totally honest. Yes, there's a financial investment and everything, but this has been a passion of mine for, I'd say it probably took the first 5 years was really about myself and understanding who I was within that role. But then the next 15 plus years was really about what I was able to contribute to others. And that's where I sort of found that, this was an emotional investment that I was making into the school. And I kind of really kind of correlated that to what Ryan Reynolds had said. Skill can bring people in. Oh, this person can do this amazing jump, flying, spinning kick, but it's really emotion that keeps them there. So being able to have like ceremonies and celebrating their moments, creating mentorship programs, and we've all heard the term that misery needs company. I always kind of feel that misery or a shared struggle kind of creates camaraderie and it creates loyalty. So those really, really hard workouts and everything that everybody gets through at the end of the day and they're all just sweating.
Hmm.
It's a difficult time to kind of go through, but they all go through it together and they all lift each other up. So in my opinion, people don't stay because of whatever you're offering. They're going to stay because of how you made them feel, especially in those really hard moments.
No, I think you've got the business side completely figured out there, bud. And I guess my next question is like when we talk about the misery loves company, like what have you seen like with just like the martial arts culture in general change over the last 20 years?
Within the martial arts culture, and this is actually a struggle that I've sort of been going through, and I've seen this as a very cultural, and I do feel that it is a bit of an issue where a lot of schools there is sort of a expectation that you're going to make it to the next belt,
Hmm.
and that's something that I'm having a little bit of a hard time or I was, changing that sort of culture of, moving from one belt to the next belt is, it's not a privilege, it's an expectation. And I see that across a lot of many different schools. And what we've been really working hard on is being able to raise our standards without losing heart.
Yes.
I think that's probably been one of the biggest struggles, and our school is not the only that's going through this. We want to change it to where it's something that's earned. And we're trying to balance accountability, but also have compassion as well. In my opinion, growth is something that requires honesty. It also requires support, and you need both. I think many martial arts instructors, not to criticize anybody, but it's the easy path. And the real hard work is when you have students who are at a certain level and you need to raise them to the next level. That's where the real hard work comes into play.
Hmm.
I feel that having an ability to sort of curate your program as opposed to having a blanket program for everybody, I think curation is extremely important, especially within the martial arts, because everybody comes from a different place. I think that you can't lead somebody if you don't understand what they're carrying with them when they first walk in. And I think we have to kind of go a little bit deeper on the personal side of martial arts in order to understand where they are and what is their end goal. Everybody's is going to be different. Maybe it's more of a psychological. I need more courage or confidence. Maybe it's physical. I need to lose a few pounds and I want to be able to do some of these jumping, flying, spinning kicks. Everybody's at a different place. And one of the things that actually a story just kind of popped in my mind of I had a teen student who was going through some really, really hard times. And I was very honored that he was really open with me about some of the things that were going on in his personal life. And there's one day that we're training, and it was one of these really hard trainings. There's this workout routine that I call the gauntlet. And it's very physically demanding. And we're going through it. We're all going through it together. We're all just sweating. And I saw him kind of lean up against one of the kicking bags, and he just kind of slid down. He was just kind of sitting on the mat, and his head was down. And I walk over to him. I'm like, "Hey, everything okay? You doing all right?" And he looked up, and through all the sweat and everything, I could see that tears were kind of streaming down his face. And I kind of looked at him like, you doing all right, man? And he looked up at me and he was just like, "This is my therapy."
Oh man.
All right, I get a little emotional about it
Yeah.
because in the moment, it was extremely powerful. It was, he was pushing through something far beyond the physical.
Yeah. It had nothing to do with the third stretch of the gauntlet. It had to do with his inner demons.
Yeah. And, he was working through that. And that student, is an absolutely amazing person. He's going to be doing some amazing things in this world. So, and that was several years ago. Like, and you have all these types of stories. And this is where you go beyond being a business, owner. You're
Right
truly a
on.
leader. That sabanim that I talked about before, where you're a guiding light. To be able to provide that to people of any age, there's real beauty, and I think that's the art of the martial arts.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm hearing from the three hats of the instructor versus the practitioner versus like the business making it work. The instructor hat is where your heart is.
Yes, correct. Yeah, for sure, for sure.
So when you say that I don't remember the word that you used, but I kind of heard it like the tailoring the teaching a little bit to the student was how I would rephrase it, but I don't remember which word you used. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so I think I kind of used like curating the experience.
Curating, there it is.
Yeah. And with that, it's really understanding who is in front of you.
Hmm.
I have to give a lot of credit to one of my mentors. He's from Japan. He has gone back and he lives in Japan again. His name is Tatsuo Fukuoka. And Tatsuo was my mentor for many, many years, and we worked really hard together. And he actually was a second Dan black belt when I first started.
Yeah.
And he essentially waited for me to go all the way to first Dan to second Dan so we could test together for our third Dan.
Wow.
And extremely remarkable human being. Still my mentor today, full 90-degree bow if I ever see him.
Yeah.
So he waited all this time and he really kind of nurtured me and he showed me what mentorship was about. And, there are often times where, a master would come in and they'd say, "Oh, this is exactly how you throw the kick and you throw it exactly this way." I actually have a grappling.
I guess let me cut you off for just a second there,
Sure.
Eric, because like for the people that are listening that don't get that, it's like there's a bigger difference between a third degree black belt and a fourth degree black belt than there is between a white belt and a black belt. So for him to have that humility to put off that time in his own rank for you to catch up, that speaks to his character and it also speaks to your bond.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Sorry, I kind of glazed over that part,
Yeah.
but it is extremely important.
I'll convert martial artese to English when I see it necessary.
Yes, please do. Please do. I kind of have been in this world for so long, I don't realize I speak a different language at times.
Yeah, yeah, right on.
So, yeah, he had waited for me. So we could test for our third degree, our third Dan at the same time. And you'd have masters who would come in and, this is exactly how you throw the kick. And they, kind of do everything in that way. And I have a wrestling background. And when any of my other skill sets kind of come in, sometimes I do things a little bit differently. Just your footwork can be different or your posture can be different. And each martial art sort of has its own body language, so to speak.
Sure.
And what Tatsuo taught me was either way, you're going to get to the end result, but how you get there can vary by every single person. So, what he would do is look at how you do things naturally. And instead of trying to rechange how somebody does something naturally, it was more important to use your strengths and then tweak them a little bit to get to your end goal.
Absolutely.
And that is exactly where I found a lot of my success, was being able to just tweak things just a little bit, little bit, little bit, little bit. And all these little changes, it might take longer to get from point A to point B, but when you get there, it stays with you because you're utilizing your own personal strengths in order to accomplish whatever the task is. I think the same applies in business as well.
Hmm.
Finding what your personal strengths are, tweak them a little bit to get to your end result. So within that sort of curation process, what I believe is everybody should sort of take a look at what their end goal is. Start at the very, very end. Oh, I want to become a black belt. Oh, I want to become a CEO. I want to become the greatest singer ever to live. Whatever that end goal is, start there and then reverse engineer it. And as you kind of go backwards, use about 90% of positive talk. You're going to get there. And if you can already envision and place your mind in the place that you want to be, that other 10%, the hard work that it takes to get there, that's going to come much more naturally because you're so envisioned and you're so ingrained in where that end goal is going to be. The 10% will take care of itself. You'll find that reason to wake up in the morning to go for a run. You'll find a reason to wake up in the morning and look in the mirror and rehearse your speech. Those things will just start coming so naturally because that 90% of positive visualization is already done. And then you begin to give meaning to all the hard work. It becomes much easier than trying to climb a giant mountain. So the curation process, with every student is knowing who they are, knowing where they are, kind of where they come from. And, in my world, it's a very physical world of the martial arts. What language does their body speak? And being able to help shape and mold that. Now, am I always successful? No, 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 definitely not. There's plenty of times where I have to kind of rewrite that path. If you take a look at a student, they're kind of like, okay, there's some clay that you have to help mold. Different clays come from different places. There's the art side of me talking again. People are malleable in different ways, and it's up to you to help kind of shape them. So I think the being able to understand who your student is the same as understanding who your audience is, and being able to wear the different hats, is going to help create more success, not for your business, but for the individual or the person that you're working with.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, what I just heard is like you start from the outcome, start with the outcome in mind, and then see where we're at, what our resources are, what our natural behaviors are, and then help tweak them so that they can find the most efficient path to that outcome.
Correct. Yeah, I think that's exactly it.
Yeah, well, you just bridged the gap between being a martial arts instructor and a financial planner for me, and I didn't realize I was doing the same thing in both places.
Hey, I did something good today. I'm gonna sleep
Yeah,
well
I
tonight.
appreciate you, man. So do you are you the one that does most of the hours on the teaching, or do you have a team that does that? Like being in the school for 20 years, I imagine you guys got about every rank on the floor.
So I do have a lot of different ranks. Actually, coming up in April, I will be having one of our black belt testings or assessments. And I have a few of my adult students who are going from first dan to second dan, or second degree, as people sort of
Yeah,
know a little bit more. So they'll be going to second degree black belt. I have several assistants that help out. Primarily, I'm the one that teaches every single class. So even if
gotcha.
I have, an instructor that is teaching the class, because as you go from like black belts and especially from first to second dan or degree, it's really less about you as a person and what you're able to provide to others and your teaching ability and kind of leadership abilities. So even if it's a moment where somebody else is teaching a class, I'm always on the mat for like every single class, because it's also feedback is very important within our culture. So at the end of every single class, whether I teach it or not, we always give time for feedback from every single black belt instructor as well as from myself. And feedback can be positive, negative. Feedback is feedback. It doesn't, we don't characterize it by, oh, this is good or bad. All feedback is a gift, and so we always take time to do that. So yeah, I'm on the mat every single class, whether I'm the one teaching it or not. My One of the things that I actually really love doing is several of my old teachers and people who were black belts that helped teach me. They've come back to the school to, whether it's to give a presentation or a lecture or to teach a little bit. I don't want our school to be just my voice. I think that's also a thing that I see in a lot of schools is it's kind of like one person's voice and everything.
Yeah, right on.
Again, that curation, different people can hit differently. So I like to try to bring in as many people as possible to kind of help provide like what their experiences are and what their expectations in life are, because I could say the same thing over and over again, but a different voice can say it in a way that hits with somebody else. And that's what I aim for is again, community even within teaching.
And so that was the invite you gave me for April for me to come and see what I can do for you guys.
Yeah, yeah, and that's something I'm extremely excited about. Whether you don't actually probably know this, but I talk about you. I talk about the different people that I've met along my journey, and all of you are sort of like these ghosts. Like you're like a mythology that's in our school. Now they're gonna be able to actually put a face with a name and be like, oh, Master Eric actually knows people. He's not like a lonely hermit in a house somewhere. He actually knows people, and they're coming here.
That's phenomenal. I'll try to do justice to the avatar you've created.
Oh no, you will do an amazing job. Trust me, you are absolutely one of the people that when I met during my experience, again, it was difficult and there's a lot of trepidation. We were all sort of worried, like, okay, are we gonna pass? And you know, we had I'm gonna give a little backstory where when we were going through our certification, Professor Grandmaster On was one of the people who was one of our judges when we were having to do like our forms, our PUMSE. And for those who don't know, Professor Grandmaster On at that time, there are 20 professors at the Kukiwan, the head of Taekwondo, though, the World Taekwondo headquarters. There are 20 professors where they're the ones that come together in the different forms, or in like karate, people might know it as kata. In Taekwondo, it's called Pumse. And in the Pumse world, it's a series of how do I want to say it? It's like choreographed fight sequences, and each one has a lot of meaning. Actually, I just kind of wrote a blog post about it on our website. But each one has different meaning, and there's 20 professors, and that's all they do. That's their jobs to study these forms. And Professor Grandmaster On, he was in charge of everybody. He was the number one person. So when we're performing in front of him, if you make a mistake, you know that he will see it.
Yeah.
So if anybody ever has anxiety about testing and their performance, we've been there. We know what that experience is like. And also, by the way, I don't know if you know, but Professor Grandmaster On, he's promoted. He's now a chairman within the Kukiwan.
I have no doubt that he was going to get there. That
Yeah,
he was one of the most phenomenal guys I've ever met.
yeah, he's absolutely amazing. I'm glad I got his autograph. I don't know if you were able to get one, but I
Yeah,
grabbed his autograph.
it's hanging up above my picture of him and I together in my dojang. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. But yeah, so your experience of even going through that, you know, I went there and I didn't know anybody. I went there completely alone, didn't know anybody. But the bonds and the relationships that I made have been absolutely incredible. I'm still in touch with the only female master in Kenya. She was there, and I met so many amazing people from all over the world. You name a country, and they're probably there,
Yeah.
and it was just such an amazing experience. So
Yeah, I think there was like 40 countries represented at that.
Yeah, I think it was something like that. I have the number somewhere, but because I wrote it down, I was like, this is amazing. But again, we do this daily within our own schools, our own dojons. We do this daily where we're creating those types of bonds. And actually, I have like a group thread that I just started with some of our previous teenage students who are now off in college and they're all around the world and everything, how they want to do a reunion this summer. And, it's just amazing what, again, I kind of said it before, where it's like, that misery creates camaraderie. Well, when you go through hard times together and you go through a common struggle, the bonds that you create, I don't know if those can ever be broken. And
Right on.
for you, you're one of those bonds for me. So
Well, thank you,
I
sir.
want to say thank you. You helped me get through a very difficult time too.
Awesome. Well, I enjoyed tremendously our time training together, and if somebody in your area wants to have some of that joy of training with you, where are you located at your school, and how would somebody get a hold of you?
Yeah. So we are kind of on the far like northwest suburbs of Chicago. So we're about an hour away from Chicago. We're in Lake in the Hills, Illinois. And the easiest way to get in touch with us, visit our website. It's pretty easy. It's TVMA.academy. That's it. So TVMA.academy. Yeah, if anybody ever wants to, swing on by, do free trial class, check it out. I'm kind of pretty open about, come on in. I want to make sure that everybody is a good fit for us as well as that we're a good fit for you. I think that's a very crucial step. It's not about like, not everybody is always accepted into the school. I can be a
Right
little
on.
picky about that. I want to make sure it's a good two-way relationship.
So you keep that culture.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
So, Mike, how do people get in touch with you if they need some more information?
Yeah, you can check out our website for a little more information at sablepoint.com, spelled SABLE point.com. You can email me directly at mike@sablepoint.com. And we've got our team ready to schedule for in-person or Zoom meetings at 231-425-4308. Again, that's 231-425-4308.
All right. Well, thanks to both of you, and thank you for listening today. Please like, follow, and share this podcast with your friends. Until next time.
Thank you for listening to the Wealth Doc Podcast with Mike Heckman. Click the follow button to be notified when new episodes become available. Have questions? Visit our website at sablepointwealthmanagement.com or give us a call at 231-425-4308. And don't forget to click the follow button to be notified when new episodes become available. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Sable Point Wealth Management. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investing advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial service provider with any questions you may have regarding your investment planning. Content here is for illustrative purposes and general information only. It is not legal, tax, or individualized financial advice, nor is it a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold any specific security or engage in any specific trading strategy. Results will vary. Past performance is no indication of future results or success. Market conditions change continuously. This commentary reflects the personal opinions, viewpoints, and analyses of Mike Heckman. It does not necessarily represent those of RFG Advisory, Private Client Services, their clients, or their employees. This commentary should not be regarded as a description of advisory services provided by Mike Heckman or RFG Advisory or performance returns of any client. The views reflected in the commentary are subject to change at any time without notice.
Securities offered by registered representatives of Private Client Services, member FINRA SIPC. Advisory services offered by investment advisory representatives of RFG Advisory, a registered investment advisor. Private Client Services, Mike Heckman, and RFG Advisory are unaffiliated entities. Advisory services are only offered to clients or prospective clients where RFG Advisory and its representatives are properly licensed or exempt from licensure. No advisory services may be rendered by RFG Advisory unless a client agreement is in place.